Good evening and welcome to video number 5 in the 2024 Haltom City Election Season Series. Happy Monday, I'm Jason Steele, and these videos are to help you make an informed decision about your Haltom City Council candidates for the upcoming municipal election. By the way, this video was shot on Sunday for all of you that have City Hall on speed dial to complain. In episode 2, we learned that Ron Sturgeon was unhappy with our city council, so he created Hubba, published fake news stories containing lies and misleading information, and has for the last 4 years running tried to install puppets onto our council, this year being Cindy Sturgeon and Spencer Drabick. What if I told you, though, that this wasn't the first time that Sturgeon has done this? Welcome to Kennedale, Texas. In 2019, Ron Sturgeon did not like the direction that the Kennedale City Council was taking the city. So what does any multimillionaire do to the small city he doesn't live in when he doesn't like how it's going? He creates a business alliance called KBO, the Kennedale Alliance of Business Owners. Let's see if any of this sounds familiar. HUBBA, the Haltom United Business Alliance. KBO, the Kennedale Business Owners Alliance. HUBBA, founder Ron Sturgeon. KBO, founder Ron Sturgeon. HUBBA, Director Joe Palmer. KBO, Director Joe Palmer. HUBBA uses 24/7 fake news outlet. KBO uses 24/7 fake news outlet. HUBBA backs puppet candidates. KBO backed puppet candidates. Using the same MO as HUBBA, Sturgeon and KBO start posting fake news stories about alleged issues with the then current Kennedale Council, including stories calling for business-friendly council candidates. Now, where have we in Haltom City heard that before? Except in Kennedale, nobody got in their way if they were able to get their puppets on council. Jan Joplin, Rocky Gilley, and Sandra Lee all took money from Ron Sturgeon. How did this affect Kennedale? The following is from a Facebook post from Mike Walker's Keeping Up with Kennedale, and I quote, "On July 3rd, 2018, Kennedale's Board of Adjustment heard a request by Ron Sturgeon for a special exception for Ronnie, to continue operating a salvage yard in Kennedale." Wait a minute, 2018, I thought you didn't own any since 1999. I thought that's what your book said, Ron. Anyway, back to the story. That evening, the Board of Adjustment denied his request. Mr. Sturgeon subsequently has filed suit against the city in hopes of continuing to operate his salvage yard. Last week, October 8th, 2018, Jan Joplin asked that the lawsuit be placed on the council's agenda. See the email below. I don't have the email. I can get it. Sources have told me she wants the city to capitulate to Mr. Sturgeon and allow his salvage yard to continue to operate. What makes this very interesting is that Mr. Sturgeon was a contributor to Mrs. Joplin, Mrs. Lee's, and Mr. Gilley's campaigns. See the campaign finance report below. We saw those earlier. Records show that he gave at least $1,500 to these candidates. Now, the ethical way of handling this would be for Joplin, Lee, and Gilley to recuse themselves on this issue. Do you think that will happen? I don't think so. Remember last autumn when Miss Joplin tried to get the city manager to get a warrant dismissed for a family member of a supporter/contributor? Wow, Ron, you hang with some classy people. When the city manager refused, she stated she would be there with the contributor's family in an apparent attempt to influence the judge and the prosecutor, which, by the way, the council hires. By the way, the warrant was dismissed. You see why you don't need this shit in Haltom City? Back to the story. Did her questionable ethical behavior influence that decision? You decide. Now, I'm sure Joplin, Gilley, and Lee will give a passionate speech about they are just trying to save our city from spending dollars on legal expenses. However, this may ring a little hollow when we remember how they have cost the city a small fortune with their records requests for legal advice and lawsuits, should our councilors' votes be for sale. Okay, no, I don't think they should be for sale. And that's why I don't want somebody with $19,700 in Arlington PAC money on our council like Cindy Sturgeon has. If you are willing to be for sale to special interests like that, then are you going to approach our municipal judge and say you want a warrant dismissed? By the way, she'd tell you to go to hell. Are you going to approach our city manager? He would tell you the same thing, okay? But this is the kind of thing that these dirty politics and these dirty backdoor deals get you in Haltom City. or get you anywhere, not in Haltom City. We don't want it here. Okay, so now let's get into the backstory with the Kennedale city manager and what happened. The Kennedale city manager, George Campbell, took KBO and its director, Joe Palmer, to task for their fake news stories. Part of the issue that city manager Campbell had with Palmer and KBO and Sturgeon was their criticism of the Kennedale Town Square development. In their article, they talked about how the development was dead and they couldn't get anything in there, and their whole approach to it was wrong. Blah blah blah. It's the same crap that they say about our warehouses. It's the same crap that they say about the things that we do in Haltom City. Just trying to throw shade to make it look like our council don't know what they're doing, which is exactly what they did here. So in response, KBO had posted an article calling for City Manager Campbell's contract not to be renewed. They've also posted a negative article about the Kennedale Town Square project. I want you to pay attention to this picture right here of the on the right with the Kennedale Town Square project with that big for lease sign. This is the same crap that Hubba does in Haltom City. There is article after article of Hubba posting 7-year-old pictures of the Haltom Plaza back before it was remodeled. That roof hasn't been that solid tan color like that in years, and we'll talk about that. We have I have pictures going back through Google Earth. You know, Ron doesn't figure out that somebody could figure out how to get the pictures and show exactly when they were the roofing in the paint was done, but we can. So this is his technique. He shows this building, he shows other buildings that are empty, and he shows things that skew the truth of what's going on. We have a whole video coming up on that, but just pay attention to this here because you'll see here in a minute why this technique is bullshit. On July 2nd, 2021, Mayor Brian Johnson resigned, citing fundamental differences with the direction of the city with the newly elected council. And he didn't like where the city was going with all of the lackeys and the people in the business owners' pockets coming up into the council. On July 22nd, only 20 days later, 2021, 20 days later, the Kennedale City Council fired George Campbell. Wow, that is very convenient for KBO and its members, is it not? You write an article, you pay for some city council candidates, they win, they fire the guy that stood against you. Subsequently, the last KBO post was made on June 14th, 2021. This is what happens, they're done. KBO is not about making Kennedale better. KBO was about making Kennedale for them. Now that KBO has impose their will in that city, they haven't posted in the last 3 years. Back to Haltom City now. Ron Sturgeon and Hubba bragged that Kennedale has put non-resident business owners on their economic development board, an idea that they keep pushing for us here in Haltom City. All of this stuff that I just read is really interesting stuff. I feel like I need to take a shower after some of it. However, what myself and the citizens of Haltom City are probably most interested in is this. Jan Joplin's the mayor of Kennedale, and KBO has imposed its will on Kennedale. Is Kennedale thriving under Ron and KBO's council? Let's go take a look. All of these pictures were taken on Kennedale Parkway on March 31st of this year. This is Kennedale's Denton Highway, or their main drag. I will run the videos I took after the end of this presentation so you can see it for yourself. You can see if you think that Kennedale is thriving under Ron and KBO's council. On the first picture here, notice the listing agent on the sign. It's good old Jim Eaton again. Team Tarrant PAC donor and Ron Sturgeon real estate employee. This is Ron's empty building at 1220 East Kennedale Parkway. Ron, if having a non-resident business owner on your board of economic Here's another lovely building to look at, rusted roof, vacant, nothing going on here. You didn't bring the small businesses back to there, Ron. Empty, boarded up. All of this is on the main drag. A deteriorating house over here next to an automotive related business. Another boarded up, empty, vacant business with no thriving going on whatsoever. Empty bank building. Another empty building with trash. This here is one of my personal favorites. Look at that building just basically coming apart right on your main drag. And this is something, as much as Ron wants to talk trash about Haltom City or anybody else, we don't have heaps of scrap metal looming over our main drag. This scrap metal processing facility is right off of Kennedale Parkway. And while this is the backside, you can see this from the front also. And no thriving city, of course, is complete without a junkyard on its main thoroughfare. There you go. And I'll tell you, this particular time when I came down here, it stank. It was terrible. Look at that view. That just makes businesses want to come and open right up on Kennedale's main drag, doesn't it? See, this is what was going on. The citizens of Kennedale were trying to reclaim their city and take some of this stuff away, just like they did with the strip clubs that they had. They did that. They got rid of the strip clubs. Now they wanted to take their city back from these, and you see what happened. City manager fired, mayor run off, council people bought. So this is what happens when the citizens try to stand up for their city. So also want you to imagine if you were a code enforcement officer in the city of Kennedale. Would you jeopardize your job and jeopardize the way you feed your family by trying to enforce code violations against these business owners with the council members in their pocket so they can fire you? It's not going to get any better there, is it? By the way, there's no grocery store in town, for those that were wondering. Very limited restaurants. No entertainment venues that I saw. And does anyone want to guess what the best looking, least vacant, most thriving development that I saw in town was? The Kennedale Town Square project Ron Sturgeon, Joe Palmer, and Cabo talked so much trash about. Good looking building, several restaurants in it. There's an antique mall up in there. This is the only place in town that I would go to hang out. While the subjects of junkyards is still fresh on our memory here, there's a February 3rd, 2020 Cabo article where Joe Palmer stated, Cabo has no salvage yard operators on our membership or in our membership. This was in response to then Kennedale Mayor Brian Johnson accusing Cabo of wanting to keep the salvage yards open in Kennedale. Remember, Ron Sturgeon is not only the founder of Cabo, he's a member. I had found 4 properties in the Tarrant Appraisal District listed for Ron Sturgeon in Kennedale, Texas. The first, 1220 East Kennedale Parkway, was the vacant, not thriving building you saw earlier. The other 3 were 6705, 6711, and 6723 Oak Crest Drive East. Does anyone want to guess what's at those addresses? The time is 11:08 on Saturday, March the 30th, 2024. And as I said in the last video, we were going to come down here to Kennedale to check out some of Ron's properties and see how he's making Kennedale thrive out here. He owns 6705, 6711, and 67, I think it's 23. Let me check my notes. Yeah, 6723 Oak Crest Drive East here in Kennedale. Now, as I had mentioned before, my dog Coco. Hey, Coco. Coco. Hey, how you doing? She's a certified bullshit detecting dog. And Ron Sturgeon has been on record multiple times as saying that he no longer owns any junkyards. So let's go see. It has nothing to do with them. All right, you got 6705 right there. That sure looks like a junkyard. 6711. Not a whole lot of traffic out here either. There's another junkyard. Let's go down here to 6723. 6723 on the front. There's your junkyard. 6723. So, Ron, I think you're being a little bit less than honest with people about your involvement with wrecking yards, and we'll find out that that's not the only misinformation you've given about your relationship with wrecking yards. But I damn sure don't see any thriving going on around here. but we'll check your other Kennedale property and see what we find. Back to our information here. Let's talk about property taxes. Which city's citizens are thriving? This is where the citizens of Haltom really need to listen up. All you Norwoods, Annetts, Roaches, everyone who bitches to high heaven about Haltom City and who think Ron Sturgeon is going to make your life better in Haltom, you better pay attention to this part. Taking the example of a $300,000 home, excuse me, Kennedale has a property tax rate of 0.706190. Haltom City's property tax rate is 0.567283. Again, $300,000 house. If you live in Kennedale, you get a zero homestead exemption. So you're going to pay the full $300,000 value. Homestead exemption in Haltom City is 10%. So that knocks $30,000 off your $300,000. Divide $300,000 by $100 valuations, that gives you $3,000. Divide $270,000 by $100 valuations, that gives you $2,700. 3,000 times 0.706190 equals $2,118.57. 2,700 times 0.567283 equals $1,531.66. A Kennedale resident pays $586.91 more in city property tax than a Haltom City resident for the same $300,000 valued property. Excuse me. Let's talk about our seniors now. Kennedale, Haltom City, same property tax rates, same $300,000 house. No homestead exemption for Kennedale, 10% for Haltom City. Over 65, they get a $60,000 exemption, so they're going to pay on $240,000. Over 65 in Haltom City, they get a $50,000 exemption, so they're going to get, hang on. Sorry about that. Over 65 in Kennedale, they get $60,000 exemption, so now they're paying on $240,000. Over 65 in Haltom City, they get an additional $50,000 on top of their $30,000 that they already got. So now they're paying $220,000 of their value for their property taxes. $240,000 divided by $100 valuations is $2,400. $220,000 divided by $100 valuations is $2,200. 2,400 times 0.706190 is $1,694.85. 2,200 times 0.567283 is $1,248.02. A Kennedale senior will pay $446.83 more in city property taxes than a Haltom City senior for this same $300,000 property. Let's talk about sales taxes. Sales taxes help offset your property taxes by having those shopping or purchasing goods in your city pay those taxes in our city. How does Kennedale compare to Haltom City sales tax production? Ron Sturgeon talks so much crap about Haltom City residents having to make up for sales taxes lost because we didn't add a 188th oil change place or automotive related business in Haltom City. And says that Kennedale is the example we should look to. Kennedale isn't even on the same board with Haltom City, just more manipulation and more lies. These numbers over here to the left are out of the total number of cities in the entire state of Texas. So Haltom City is number one in the entire state of Texas in sales tax production. And you can see that number there, $1,262,413.69. Kennedale, way down, number 268. We're top 100. They're way down 268. Same time frame. They generated $258,000 roughly. I mean, give me a break, Ron. That's not even close. You're a financial genius. 400% more in sales tax revenue, and this is the crap you're writing in your Hubba articles that Haltom City citizens are going to have to make up for. Kennedale citizens are obviously having to make up for the taxes that you're not making up for by putting money in your pocket. In fact, for the last quarter of 2023, Haltom City was one of only 3 comparable cities in our area in the plus column for sales tax. Not Fort Worth, who Ron says we need to be more like. They were down 3%. Not North Richland Hills, who Ron constantly says is doing better than Haltom. They were down also. Euless, down. Colleyville, down. But Haltom City did better this last quarter than those cities, and better in 2023 than we did in 2022. Makes you wonder if Ron really is the genius he claims that he is when he writes about sales taxes being down for Haltom City when they're obviously not. Seems like something a financial genius should be aware of. If Ron Sturgeon's idea of having business owners on our boards who don't live in our city is such a good idea, then why are Kennedale residents paying a 20% higher property tax rate than we are? Why do their residents not enjoy a homestead exemption like Haltom residents do? Why is Haltom City generating 400% more sales tax revenue than Kennedale? Why is Haltom thriving when Kennedale is not? Ron and his business community have control in Kennedale. He claims that that's all that Haltom needs is business owners on our council and business owners on our boards. Now you can watch the videos of Kennedale's main drag that I took this past March on Kennedale Parkway. Oil change and mechanic shops, vacant and boarded up buildings. If Kennedale is Ron's example of success, we need to keep Haltom like it is. Don't Kennedale my Haltom, Ron. All right, in continuation of Kennedale, we saw some of Ron's properties. Again, not very impressive, but we're going to read from this article right here, which is one of the Hubba articles. And it says, Haltom United Business Alliance urges Haltom City Council to open economic development boards to Haltom City business owners who live in Tarrant County. Now, first of all, why in the hell would anybody in a city want to give outside control of their economic development to people who have a conflict of interest in that economic development? Property owners, business owners that could directly benefit from that instead of looking at what the citizens want and need. And I'm going to read this quote down here. A lot of Haltom City business owners live in other places. Making a move like Kennedale is a way to tap into their ideas and attract more small businesses to Haltom City. Ron Sturgeon, Hubba. All right, let's read some more in here. Hubba would like to see Haltom City take proactive steps to create a relationship with its business community, communicate and collaborate with them, and as was recently done in neighboring Kennedale, add them as non-voting members to its economic development committees to use the brain power associated with its land and business owners who live in other parts of Tarrant County. Now, I'm only going to read this because this person was funded by Ron Sturgeon, and I have the campaign finance reports to prove it. Councilperson, now Mayor Jan Joplin, proposed a resolution to amend the corporation's bylaws to create 2 new members of the board. So Ron funds her as a city council person, then miraculously she uses his idea to put business owners up on the board. And here's her quote. These are people who own a business here but don't live here, but want to serve and have ideas to contribute to our effort to attract more new small businesses to our community and help existing businesses grow and thrive, said Joplin. And of course, the Haltom United Business Alliance would like to see similar steps taken in the Haltom City. Hubba has long held that creative strategies and transparent processes are needed in Haltom City to foster economic development and benefit residents and business owners alike. All right, such an initiative would have zero downside for the city because the members can't vote, he added. Oh, well, let's just talk about that real quick. So the members can't vote, right? But the council people who put those members on there, they do. See how that works? And then the council members who are funded by Ron who put those people on the board, those are the people that vote on projects. So that's just a smokescreen for getting done what you need to get done. So what we're going to do though is we're going to check it out. We're going to go through Kennedale and we're going to see how Ron's plan has Kennedale thriving. And I'm going to have to edit this video because I got traffic and whatnot. So when people say, oh, you didn't run the whole video, first of all, you don't want to watch 30 minutes of me driving around. And secondly, I'll have to edit it because I have to stop for people just like that car. So here we are on the border. This is Eden Road in Kennedale. And we're about to go down Kennedale their main drag. So look at all the thriving that's going on down here. Empty lots. And I want you to especially pay attention to that thriving up in front of us. Look at that, heaps of thriving. Look at the trash on the side of the road. Heaps of thriving. I understand that there's industrial areas and there needs to be, but this is their main avenue, their main. Buildings. Empty, abandoned. Or automotive businesses. correct? This is what we want to see on Denton Highway.